So October 11 is the Worldwide Day of Girl. These kits are reusable. When taken care of properly, can last up to 4 years. And what I personally like about these kits, maybe Dr. Charles remember, is it's not so far-fetched from the culture here.
So with me is the vice mayor of Roatan, Trudy Hilton, and Dr. Charles Parchment, who's a friend of mine and a member of Rotary with me, and also one of Honduras' great educators. Thanks for coming in. You know, I saw this TikTok video with you and Dr. Charles in it, and it talks about Girls' Day, which is something really important here. And I kind of want you to explain this because, you know, you and I really agree on several things about education. And it's that everybody should have the right, an equal right to get one.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, because of, as the Rotary knows, not running water, not hygienic facilities, and the fact that these young women in life reach their period and they stay out of school.
Absolutely.
And this is it can be a week at a time. And that doesn't work for an education. And then they get behind and nobody seems to care because that's what happens sometimes. But you care enough to step in and really take charge of this. So explain to people what exactly these kits are and how they came about.
Shoot, I don't have one in the car. Do you have one on your phone? Dr. Charles always ahead of the game. Thank you. That's it. I mean, yes, absolutely. Just yesterday I had a young girl because I teach English in the community. And we do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And just yesterday, the teenage girl texted me, "Oh, Miss Trudy, I can't make it to class because I'm on my period." Now, the facility is equipped. This is at the Soul Center.
Right.
So even though they have the equipment there, proper running toilet, water to flush, all that, it's already a part of the culture that because I'm on my period, I must lay in bed and do nothing all day. So that's what we're trying to change. That's what we're trying to empower. That's what we're trying to shine light on. That no, the world still continues, even though we have to deal with our menstrual cycle. And how do we deal with it? What does it mean? What am I going through? And so on and so forth.
Right.
But then once you mention the kits, then we'll whip out a kit and talk about the kit in itself.
So a lot of people, I mean, and I recall, you know, I'm 65 years old. I recall when I was a kid, going to my great-grandfather's house, who lived in a little place near Chattanooga, Tennessee. And it was a room literally smaller than this. It had a bedroom off the side. The kitchen was in the living room. They had a giant wooden fireplace, but he had no running water. None. They had to pump it. And that was it. And that was only at the sink. So he didn't care because, you know, he'd grown up like that. He was in his 70s by the time I saw him, and I was 5. And no big deal. Use the bathroom. Oh, it's an outhouse. No indoor toilet. And they grew up in a rural community where also, you know, education wasn't always a really important thing if you had to do work.
Right.
So the value of that changed. Here in Honduras, let's take that back because it's kind of similar. It's in that growth cycle.
Absolutely.
Only way more modern in many ways. I mean, all these kids have cell phones, almost every one of them, but they don't have access to clean water. They don't have money to buy feminine hygiene products. This is an issue. I was talking to someone about education here. Dr. Charles and I had this conversation. Kids have to have a uniform to go to school, but they also have to have shoes. Parents don't have enough money to buy that, and especially if they've got 4 children. So you're trying to help them out. These kits are something, though, that change the game.
Absolutely. These kits are reusable. When taken care of properly, can last up to 4 years. And what I personally like about these kits, maybe Dr. Charles remember, is it's not so far-fetched from the culture here.
Right.
I heard stories of my mom and women her age and grandmas who back in the day, they didn't have the disposable pads that what our generation know of. They would just take like old t-shirts, old towels, cut them up, and that would serve as your pad. So it's essentially the same concept, right? Is a cloth base almost like a rag, if you will. And this is the liner. And the good news for this that they didn't have back then is that there's actually a little pocket almost that it goes into, which is this part. So this actually sits on their underwear. And then you have the liners that go in and out.
Right.
And you could add or take out as many as you need.
And they're reusable.
Reusable. And what I recommend is that when they're showering, they put it in the little bag and they wash it out right then and there. But again, even that, in our culture, hand washing laundry is not as far-fetched as other cultures where everything just goes in a washer, which this can perfectly go in the washer.
Sure.
But I would say for better care, you do it by hand.
I know a lot of people here, they still wash clothes by hand. A friend of mine that's living in Toccoa, I'm like, they're like, where do you wash laundry? I say, I go to Ed's Laundry. Where do you wash laundry? We wash it in the river.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's fine. It works the same way. When you talk a little bit about the culture, talk about how education is important, Dr. Charles, and where these children need to step into a changing world.
Yes, when we were young, at least when I was young, the Bay Island was considered very important for education. Everybody pushed education. You had to get education to advance. That culture has sort of changed in the last 20 years, I would say, and I don't see the push from parents for education as a changing agent.
Why is that? What do you think that is?
Well, the family has, because of the two parents working and for different sociological conditions, that has changed. There's not much, parents are not monitoring their kids that much anymore because there's all this freedom to move around and go where you want to go. And so, but I don't see that effort anymore in the parents here on the island. Some of them are still doing it, and you can see they send their children to private school, or they're on top of the children, making sure that they follow through. But that has changed a lot.
Well, Roatan's changed. I mean, this in the short time I've been here, it's easier to get around. I mean, with the roads being built now, and then the influx of companies selling motorcycles. Now almost everyone under the age of 16 has a way of getting around, either a scooter for girls or a motorcycle, in some cases way overpowered for the young men. And I think just in general in society, I saw 2 days ago in the United States where the quote value of an upper level education gets lost. Mm-hmm. People don't believe in it. They don't think it's going to give them any advances. Is that kind of the same thing here with just regular education? They don't see the way out?
I would like to add to what Dr. Charles said, and I agree with that. I also see a lot of teen moms, the moms maybe not younger than before, probably about the same age. Maybe your generation, you were seeing moms or women getting married at the age of 16, 17. They're married off, and now you go on with your husband and start your life, which we still have the teen pregnancy part, not so much the building of a home.
Right, okay.
And back in the day, you'd have a lot of dads that would go off for work. So the women, the mothers, were responsible for keeping holding the fort down. The dads send the money home. Now we still have that issue of teen moms and younger moms, but we don't have the home factor, I would say. And because these girls are getting pregnant so soon, they themselves haven't developed, they haven't grown, so they don't see that value of education. And I would agree that higher education in many homes is declining, the value of it. And one of the things we've tried to do from a local government standpoint is bringing in organizations like INFOP, and we've reached out to USAID to try to foster that culture of, what's the word I'm looking for? Oficios. trade.
Trade.
Right? So if you don't want to go, because back in the day, sixth grade was it.
Right.
My mom made it to sixth grade. It was like graduating university. That's
Right.
what was available to them. But we now have more resources.
Right.
But the mindset is still stuck there. That sixth grade is kind of it, or ninth grade is you're doing good if you get that far. So now what we're trying to do is bring in more options so that, okay, if you don't want to continue higher education for whatever reason, economical support, or you just feel like it's not for you, here's an alternative route. Go into a trade school for a year or two, learn a skill, which we lack on this island. We don't, refrigeration technicians, we don't have very many of those.
No.
So the idea is like, here's something you can still do to generate income, keep yourself busy, and be a sustainable adult on this island.
Right.
But I think the mindset of how it used to be is still kind of present. We have, even though resources are now getting better, we still have to make that jump and that value of continue studying. Some homes do it and they're amazing at it, but a lot of them don't.
I think that's the same. Pretty much if you went to any country in the world, there's a certain group of people that really
Right.
value an education, and there's a certain group of people that feel like it's a real waste of time, and that comes from the parents, but it's also cultural. It comes. I mean, I remember, my dad was allowed to go to school. Okay, but he and his younger brother were the youngest in the family, and the other kids worked in the farm. Even though they had a bit of an education, they weren't the best educated of the family, and they were really proud of my dad because he got through high school.
Yeah.
And my uncle got through high school, and then that was a big deal. But it comes down to really, you've got to have parents that want it and that find a value in it. Also, you've got to have a way of people seeing the value in it, It's easy to look at your phone and look at people that look really glamorous and have stuff you don't, and you want to have it, and you don't know how to get it. And you've got to see the way to get that if it's important. I was lucky. I had really good role models, but a lot of kids don't.
Which is very important for like career day, bringing people that have already succeeded and have their job and everything. Here they don't. You see it.
Well, it would be nice to do that. It would really be nice to do that. I mean, I look back on how lucky I was. I mean, I made a living talking. I talk, okay, but I do a lot of work to learn how to talk. And then I like music, so I made a living talking and playing music. I mean, seriously, but it's doable, and I think kids need to see that, And
alternatives also.
Right, there's always a way. I mean, I have 7 years of college and no degree, but I'm like that close to an accounting degree. My dad was like, "You need to have something to fall back on if the radio fails." But I did it grudgingly, kind of. I enjoyed it, but when I got to San Diego, the reason I got into management was because I was able to talk to managers in their language, not like the DJs. I mean, I knew enough about business. So you never know where it's going to go. And as far as trades go, absolutely. Because if you talk to people around here, there's a struggle to find somebody to fix your air conditioner, or if your refrigerator breaks, who do you call? And the companies, they don't have anyone to call. They can't find people to help them.
Then you're importing people.
Right.
And sometimes you do find people, but they do a crappy job.
Well, if you import people, the local island people are like, "Why are you taking away my job?" And it's because nobody can do your job. That's a sad fact.
And you're not available because it's such a high demand.
Well, and then you get angry. Yeah. Now you're angry because you don't have a job that you could have studied for when you were younger. Let's go back to the kids really quick. So you did a TikTok video. It raised a couple of $1,000, $2,500, I think, really quickly.
Yeah.
How are we doing with that?
And we got also, but what's important, we got donations of the kids.
Okay, good.
One of the chapters of Days for Girls in Michigan,
right,
is sending us 400 right now, and then every month they're going to send us.
How are they? Are these kits being made in the United States?
Yeah, it's a company, it's an organization whose mission is to
do this worldwide. Oh, fantastic!
And once they saw the TikTok, one of the people saw the TikTok. They asked me how many you need. I told them 3,000 was a number.
What do you think the real number is?
Well, that's
Well,
what
it
we're
depends
working
on it depends on
How far we wanna go.
your target. If you just want girls in school, then that's about 3,000.
Right.
But when Trudy had an activity, we had a day for girls,
Menstrual hygiene
menstrual
day.
hygiene day. The parents and some of the teachers won it because they didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm intend to do is go to the schools, work with the schools, because every school is in a community, and start off with the school and then expand it to the community. So that's why the numbers are vary depending on how we go, with including how many people we're going to include. But if we starting off only, I told Trudy 4 through 12th grade girls in school, and then we go from there.
Let's do talk. This kind of ties in. Okay, so I imagine that in most first world countries, people would be surprised that a grade school, a high school, doesn't have water.
Of course.
Or a bathroom. I mean, the Rotary does a lot to change that. That's been changing that. Do you have an estimate on how, because we can work this together, how people can help Dr. Charles with the Rotary is one way, and then do you have an estimate on the number of schools that are still lacking water?
I have, one of the Rotary clubs from Texas is interested in helping the schools with $3,000 projects.
Okay.
So right now the schools I'm working with the schools in Santos Guardiola because the mayor is not helping the schools like Ron McNabb, the mayor here, is helping the schools. So I'm working with the 14 schools in Santos Guardiola.
That's a lot of schools.
Which starts in Pear Tree, from Pear Tree east.
Right.
And so we're working with those. I'm interested in working with those kids.
Right.
But we still do activities like what we're doing next Wednesday.
Right. Okay, tell us about that real quickly, and we'll give it a wrap.
Beautiful, beautiful. So October 11 is the Worldwide Day of Girl, which is something that was new to us until about a few years ago, right before COVID we started. And I was actually recruited by Keyshawn and Cece, who are part of a youth organization, because they wanted to do something for girls. At the time, I was running the women's office in the municipality. So, and I have my program. So it's all about youth empowerment. Yes, yes, yes. When we started doing this once a year, where we bring in guest speakers, kind of like what Dr. Charles was talking about, a career day. So we will target young entrepreneurs or young doctors in the field that can come in and talk about, be it what it's like being an entrepreneur, or give advice on the medical field and so on and so forth, so that they could relate. And we've been doing it now. This is our 4th year. I need to check that. 5th year of doing the Day of Girl activity. Last year we did it in the municipality. This year we're going back to our first venue, which was Infinity Bay. Thank you, Infinity Bay, for letting us use your space. And we're going to have about 100 young girls in that space. This year the theme is Digital Generation, Our Generation. And it's all about the bridging that gap of access, resources, all of what we're talking about here today. So we're going to have a day filled of different topics, starting with menstrual hygiene, talking about what is digital world, what does a phone, a computer, what do all of these things mean for us today, and how do we use them appropriately. We're also going to have a psychologist talking about stuff like digital bullying, cyber grooming, and all of the dangers of these devices. And then we'll end the day with laptops. So as you may recall, at the beginning of the year, the municipality purchased over 5,000 laptops to go into the public system from grade 1 to 6. So we're going to be using those laptops that day to do activities around self-esteem building, around kind of creating a life plan. So the idea is just to take the day and embrace that space, embrace the fact that we're girls. What does that mean? Empowering them. Every girl will leave with their kit thanks to the donations that are going to be brought in through Rotary. And that's just 100 100 more girls now that we know how will be empowered and have this tool in their hands.
And also maybe change the culture down the road.
Absolutely. Spread the word, please, by all means necessary. And the girls will come in with their teachers. So, and often my favorite thing about doing the empowerment and the sex education is the teachers are often at awe, more so than the students sometimes, because they don't receive this information.
Right.
Some of them never have seen something like this. So they're just like, I love it. I want it. How do I get more of this? But the girls too are very fascinated by it. And the kids, it's very simple. You know, we just say, who would like? And then they raise their hands. Once we explain how they work, what they're used for, and then as I see them sometimes in the street, they'll come up and say, oh my God, I love them. Or this is what I thought about them. And it's just beautiful, the feedback that we get around this. So the idea is, A, you save money by you reusing reusable pads instead of single-use pads. B, it's more comfortable and it's more sanitary because it's cloth. It's a breathable material that's comfortable for girls. And another thing is, and also very important, is that it's good for the environment.
Yeah.
You know, how much of us, and that's the other thing we say, how many of you in your community has walked about and on the trash or on the road, there's a one-time use pad thrown away? You won't see this.
No.
Like, this will be put up in your house every month to be reused.
It makes so much sense even in the United States, this would make more sense.
Well, actually, I got hooked into it because I was watching a program on an Indian reservation, how the problem of the girls now going to school for 5 days in a month, and they established kind of a program similar to this.
That's fantastic.
Without the kids. I just remember they use reusable pads, but they didn't have kids. The UNICEF did a study on the situation of children and adolescents in Roatan. And based on this report, I got more involved into the process when I saw Trudy working with the girls 2 years ago, I think it was, when we got some funds through Rotary to help one of the events that she had.
Amazing.
Another organization that people can go to provide help to us is Roatan Children's Fund. It's an organization that Cocoa View residents created to help schools, and that's sometimes I use that because they have a 501c, and people get credit for the donation. Like, we just received $10,000 for the project because I sat with a couple that was visiting Roatan. Shelley introduced me to them, and I talked to them exactly what we're doing now. And the wife went home, and next thing I knew, she sent $10,000.
That's her heart.
Instead for reconditioning the bathrooms in the schools and helping. So
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, and just 13 in Santos Guardiola, which is tiny compared to the rest of
19
Roatan.
in Roatan, in the municipality of Roatan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. It's great to see you. We'll have to have you back, both, because I love his story about how he one thing about Dr. Charles is he is the biggest proponent of education for changing a life. And he told me the story of how he got his education, I was just completely fascinated. And I've remembered you since you were an angel in the Black Nativity.
I miss those days so much.
That was great.
Rest in peace.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Charles.
Thank you very much.
All right.